It's pretty bad. In fact, what we're seeing is what's being referred to by those who are in the know. We're talking about the European Health Authority, the ECDC, as this is the worst ever avian flu pandemic, avian flu epidemic that they've seen across Europe. Now, what we're looking at is the spread of the H5N1 virus, that's bird flu to you and me, in a worse situation that we have ever seen. It's basically being found as far north as the very frigid, windswept islands of Svalbard in Norway, and as far south as the tip of southern Portugal. It's also being found right across the continent as well. We're looking all right over to the borders with Ukraine, where the testing from this particular group ends essentially in Europe. They found it in 37 European nations this year alone, and what that's resulted in is a whole lot of bird culls that have had to take place. Over 50 million birds have had to be culled at poultry farms across Europe. In France, which is the second largest producer of poultry in Europe, that's at around 22 million birds have had to be culled under rules that have been put in place. Now, those rules also say that all birds have to be housed indoors. The reason for that is because of a mutation in the virus, which is one of the reasons that's being put down for the spread and the vociferity of this particular outbreak, is that it's been able to be transmissible from wild birds to birds in poultry farms. Now, so they've tried moving all of the birds inside to try and keep them away from wild birds spreading this. And when we look at how clear that issue is of wild birds spreading it, it's the first time that we've actually seen avian flu come from Europe and found confirmed cases in North America. Cases in Canada and in the United States have been found that have definitely come from migratory species who've made their yearly journeys from Europe over across the Atlantic, and they've also brought this with them. Now, the very latest move in terms of how serious it is here in Berlin is it's affected the zoo here. Now, this was after a species known as a Hamerkop. It's a mid-sized wading bird, died on the 13th of November at Berlin Zoo, one of the biggest attractions in the German capital. They tested that bird to find out why it had died. It was found positive for avian flu. So what they've done is essentially placed all of the avian species in the zoo on lockdown, including the penguins. They're all tucked away somewhere inside to keep them as safe as they can possibly do it while they carry out further tests. Thankfully, though, the zoological director of Berlin Zoo saying no further cases have been found, but the zoo remains closed and has been closed since Friday to the public and looks set to remain closed for a little while longer just yet.
Peter, I want to find out about what this is all going to mean for consumers and for prices, because in the UK we've seen a hike in the price of eggs. Is that something that they're worried about in Germany too?
Prices across the board absolutely through the roof. You mentioned eggs in the United Kingdom. The UK does seem to be the worst affected by this. You're looking at around a 43% increase in the price of eggs from last year. Here in Germany, in the Netherlands and Denmark as well, you're looking somewhere between 12 and 20% of an increase on the price on year. But what we're seeing is that the cost of poultry, the cost of poultry and poultry produce is going through the roof. If we look at Christmas, which is of course coming up, the price of turkeys is not going to be cheap at all. We have seen some supermarkets in the United Kingdom saying you can buy 2, maybe 3 boxes of eggs as a maximum. So far, supermarkets in the UK saying that they won't be a shortage of turkeys. But if we cast our eyes across the Atlantic to the US, which of course Thanksgiving is coming up right now, it does look likely you're going to be paying an awful lot more for your festive bird. 72% increase in the price of turkey in the United States this year compared to last year. Be waiting to see how that comes through to Europe. But what we're also going to see is it's not just turkeys that are being affected. Here in Germany, the traditional Christmas fare is a goose. Now, geese don't do particularly well if you move them indoors when it comes for farming. So what we're seeing is a scarcity of geese for Christmas tables. That means their prices are going up by around 20%. And what we are seeing is in a number of magazines and online articles and news programs here in Germany suggesting, even as early as this morning, I saw one saying, hey, Christmas goose going to be too much? Why don't you go for turkey this year? Well, of course, if more people here do that, that's going to increase demand, and it's only going to see those traditional Christmas fares like turkey increase in price. The short answer is it's not good. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better, and it certainly is going to affect you when you come to the supermarket and buy things that you had bought previously.